All right, we're gonna try it this way, and then we've got our single combat as backup, so we just have to hope they're not sitting on multiple ways to deal 2 to me. They try to fervor, then we have combat, and then if they have another fervor, then they just win. We couldn't have stopped it if we wanted to. So yesterday I was helping Silverfuse cast a Legends of Runeterra Global Academy tournament. It's a community event, and somebody in Twitch chat asked, how do I get started in competitive play? I've never done it before. What do I do? Etc, etc. It was a great reminder that not every card game player is a veteran coming from years of experience. And I wanted to do a series of videos that were kind of catered towards the upcoming seasonal tournament. So this weekend is going to be the next seasonal event. I'm not going to qualify. I've just had too much going on. But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about preparation. I've been helping cast some of the community events. I've been watching other ones. I'm pretty familiar with what the tournament meta is. And I, despite my low rank at the moment on the ladder, still feel like I've got enough knowledge that I can prepare folks for what to expect. And so today's video and over the next couple of days, even though it's probably lists that many of you have seen hundreds of times, I'm going to be covering lists that you should either want to bring to this tournament or you should expect to run into them. These are very popular lists. And so we're going to start with a historic list. This is a deck that's been around since the dawn of Legends of Runeterra. This is Fiora Shen. Now, I do want to throw out some caveats here as I go through the list, because mine and the one that I'm running is not the same as everyone's list. The unique thing about Fiora Shen is that despite the fact that it has been around for an incredibly long time, it's not 100% refined. You will find the core is the same, but it is not a cookie cutter deck copy and paste. You will still find slight variations. And even in yesterday's event, which featured a mirror match of these decks in the finals, their lists had a wide variety of differences, which is, it's interesting to me because if you do cover other card games, if you cover something like Hearthstone, or if you come from Magic, that's just not a thing that happens very often. You might see, you know, 1 or 2 cards changed here or there, but the idea that you can run the same deck but have them have some pretty interesting diversions is really unique to Legends of Runeterra. It's a highlight of their good design. So first, I'm going to go through the list and I'll talk about what is core and what is flex. So flex means that you might not see this in somebody's deck. So right out of the gate, Caretaker, this is usually a core card, but it's not always a 2 of, it's sometimes a 3 of. This is like a personal preference thing, but you should expect to see Caretaker in the Fiora Shen lists because it synergizes so well with Shen. Bright Steel Protector, this is a core card, pretty classic 3 of because it's a great on curved body if you really need it against aggressive matchups, and it's a great way to provide barrier, which again helps Fiora, helps Shen, etc. All right, I run 3 copies of Egghead Researcher, which is a big diversion from most lists. This is a card that actually I am running in place of more top end choices. So when I say more top end, I'm not running Cythria, for example, and there are a lot of Fiora Shen lists that will run 2 or 3 copies of Cythria because she's an amazing 6-drop and she does a lot of great things for this list. I, however, really like having an additional chump blocker early, and because this also creates a dragon, I at least get some late game options. Now, they're usually not as great as Cythria, so you are trading off some of your late game potential in favor of the Researcher, but this is my own personal preference. Now, there are some that run this, so if you see it, you shouldn't be shocked. This can sometimes high roll and give you even more copies of Screeching Dragon, for example. And every now and then you might get something like the Empyrean, or just like a crazy dragon that allows you to steal a win that you wouldn't normally. But I will admit that as far as the tournaments go, you're more likely to see Cythria just because she's more consistent. Nopify, this is a pretty standard inclusion. Now, right now I'm running 2 Nopify, 2 Deny, which is the standard split in most decks, but I have seen people go 3 Deny, 1 Nopify. I've seen people just increase the numbers in general. Nopify is very strong in the meta right now because of a number of Aphelios decks, and Nopify gives you added bonus there. Deny is also just incredibly strong, particularly against some of the lists that have a high top end. So Anivia is more popular now, and you should expect to run into that, and being able to use Deny to stop a harrowing, stop a ruination, etc. is a pretty big deal. So some combination of Nopify and Deny you should expect in your list. Sharp Sight, this is one of the best cards in Demacia right now. This is a pretty solid 3 of core card. Single combat core card because it does beautiful things with your Fiora and with your barriered units. So this is for sure a 3 of. Fiora and Shen are both 3 ofs. They're your champions. They're the reason to run the deck. Now, you will get wins with Fiora and her alternate win condition. So if you're new to the game or you're just getting started and you're not familiar, she lets you win the game if she kills 4 units, and she can do that through Challenger, but she can also do it through single combat, through cards like Concerted Strike. And so a lot of times you're kind of playing Protect the Queen, right? It's like a game of chess. She's your most valuable unit. You're trying to protect her, and if you can do it and she gets kills, you win the game. But you don't have to win that way. This is also a deck that can just flat out win the old-fashioned way by attacking, because Shen with the barriers can really power up your attackers, and you'll see that we've got some late game bombs as well. So Fiora, what I'm trying to say is if you're new and you're just trying this deck for the first time, you don't have to feel like you have to spend every last resource keeping her alive. There are certainly times where avoiding her is actually the right play. Relentless Pursuit, I'm currently running this as a 1 of because I have really bad luck, and anytime I run more than 1 copy, I draw more than 1 copy, and then they sit there. But Relentless Pursuit is a standard card in this list. It's just more often a 2 of. I have also seen other folks drop it to a 1 of and then run 1 copy of Tiana Crown Guard, for example. But you want to be able to surprise your opponent with an attack round because it forces them to make tough decisions, especially if they're trying to dodge Fiora getting extra kills. So a lot of times, for example, if you've got a developed Fiora and you're in the mid game, being able to attack and protect her with a barrier and then follow it up with a Relentless Pursuit to attack and get her another kill, that's math that your opponent might not necessarily be accounting for. Or conversely, on defensive rounds, sometimes you can surprise them with a Relentless Pursuit, and even if you don't have a Fiora, being able to take things out with a Screeching Dragon, being able to get additional counters on Shen for leveling him up with his barrier effect. There's just a lot of benefits to getting the attack token. So you should expect this card, and again, more often than not, this is a 2 of in lists. I'm just down to 1 because I have bad luck. River Shaper is actually a pretty big deal in this list. It's your best source of card draw. You will expect 3 copies of this. Laurent here, I'm running it as a 1 of because it helps shore up the River Shaper issue, and by that I just mean this deck doesn't have a lot of natural card draw. Some lists do cut him, but if they do run him, he's most often a 1 of. I'm running 2 main deck ripostes. I have seen decks that run 3 of this, and I have seen decks that run 0 main deck ripostes. So this is a spot where you will see a lot of deviation, so just be aware of that. Similarly, I'm running 1 Spirit's Refuge. At least 1 is standard. I most often see 2 of these because this deck also doesn't have inherent ways to gain health. This ends up being like your only life gain. So you run it, but the lifesteal is very important because a lot of times it's not just like, oh, I get 1 attack's worth of lifesteal. When you play Refuge, you're almost always combining it with something like Concerted Strike or Single Combat plus an attack. So it looks benign, but it can represent healing like 10 health in a round. Concerted Strike, this is most often a 2 of. I'm currently running a 3 of because I've been running into a lot of mirrors, and dealing with barrier is very nice with Concerted Strike because the allies strike in succession. So the first one takes off the barrier, the second one finishes off the unit. But you should expect to see this card. Screeching Dragon, pretty common. It's just another beefy challenger unit, helps you fight for the board. And then top end, I'm running 2 Bright Steel Formation, which is standard. You will sometimes see folks cut one of these for a Tiana Crown Guard. And then, as I said before, a lot of lists also run Cytheria on the top end, where I'm running Researcher for a bit more consistent early game. So this is the list. Again, for veterans, you've probably already skipped past me talking about this list because, let's be honest, it's been around for a bit. But again, I'm kind of tailoring these videos for folks that are prepping for this last chance gauntlet or are looking to watch the seasonal tournament coverage, and maybe you're just not familiar with what the meta is. So that's the list. Let's dive into a couple of games and show off what the list can do. All right, this ought to be interesting because this is a list I have not run into in a while. I assume that this is going to be the pirate aggro that just runs MF and Gangplank for additional damage. And so I don't know how well this is going to go, just because it's a matchup that I haven't had in a while, but relatively decent start here. Obviously not taking 3 on turn 1. That's not decent, but relatively decent start in terms of bodies. The real decision we have to make here was going to be whether to develop this or not, but Researcher here means that I don't have to. I can throw a chump blocker down and still develop other options later. And we're gonna get the Corsair there. And I think we're gonna go ahead and attack because I don't expect a block from either of them. All right, that is problematic. So if they don't take the open attack, and they didn't, then that means we for sure are gonna develop this. Not that we really want to save that, but we need bodies. I guess there was an opportunity there for developing Fiora as potential blockers for these.
This'll shake 'em. I've got us covered.
Just because they would have been out of mana, but
Shield up.
hindsight and all that jazz. So I soak a lot more here, and I think that's fine. Fiora's gonna end up attacking into this next round. So it's just a question of how badly do I want to get rid of this. I mean, this takes me down to 11, which is not great, but still manageable.
I'll stop you.
This is still 11, but much better trades. And so I think this is the way we're going to go. We also have this single combat where we could get rid of the Corsair off of our 3-2 if we really wanted to, but as I said, I expect that is what my Fiora wants to munch on for lunch.
By my honor, you must die.
I'm cold, I'm hungry, and there's rocks in me boots.
I never try me.
So we're going to try this out. They still have 3 mana here, so it is entirely possible that they had some sort of stop. Something like a fervor would have been
No pay.
problematic. It's a shame that we don't have anything to further protect her this turn, so that we could try to single combat or do other things, but we're going to go ahead and pass. Now here, if they don't take the open attack, I think Bright Steel is the better play than Screeching, because that does open up single combat on the Misfortune. But yeah, I expect the open attack as a punish. So if we do this, we go down to 5, but we can kill the Misfortune after the fact. And then potentially even this, if they further spend mana. Like we go pretty low, but we give ourselves a relatively good outcome chance.
For a worthier.
We're just dancing around whether or not I can save this Fiora is the reality at the moment. So we're gonna do this. into a single combat. We have our 4 mana for the deny if they do have a fervor here.
I have no equal.
Now, even though we have the Relentless and we could chew that up, if they pass here with all this mana, I think we just pass and we consider doing it next turn. I think we can take the open attack into that and then maybe ambush them with the Relentless, but the rest of our hand is just not great. We don't have riposte or anything to further keep her alive the way that we would like. And so that's our biggest issues. She can win this battle and then we have nothing to get her over the hump. So really we're just trying to keep the board clear and use our denies as best as possible until maybe Brightsteel gets her the final bit of the way. And I know that's 3 turns away, but unless we top deck something else, that's the current route, current game plan. All right, so there's the fervor. We kind of assumed that they were sitting on at least 1 fervor. And now it's just going to depend on what mana they use. We'd like to develop Screeching as an additional blocker if they develop units, but I think we need our deny mana a bit more here. We'd love to find our Spirit's Refuge. That would be a big help as well. All right, so yeah, I think here we go with the Screecher, I guess.
No one's the wiser.
That's at least a 1 damage, and then the sleep is an extra 2. And that was not something that helps us win with Fiora. Concerted Strike would have been a good top deck. You kind of want to deny this, but you also kind of don't want to deny it until the next one. This takes us down to 3, which obviously means that like Fervor can close us out. This will take us down to 2 and there's nothing we can do about it, but I think you have to let this one go to try to set up a Relentless to chew up some of these bodies. This is such a horrible spot to be in. I think we let this go. So if I pop this here, kind of forces them into attacking. But I still think that this is going to be the right call. We're so low. We desperately need like Spirit's Refuge here. Yep, that's Overwhelm. So we go down to 2. We clean up the bodies. Pass with our deny mana because we can't afford not to. So we're still like 2 turns out from Brightsteel being able to even come close to helping us here.
Let them eat souls.
The worst part is we can't, if they play units, we can't even develop Mind Splitter and not risk dying because they're gonna have a bajillion mana. I actually think we just pass here. Wow, no units. They've 3. Oh, okay. Combat with Bright Steel here could give us a shot. I think they're just waiting to burn me out. All right, we'll do the Bright Steel thing. We still have Deny Mana available. But this is at least going to generate some pressure. I mean, if they have 2 burn spells, we can't stop it anyway. So there's no point in pretending. If they have something like Fervor, they need a unit. This 1 health Fiora holding it down. All right, we're gonna try it this way, and then we've got our single combat as backup, so we just have to hope they're not sitting on multiple ways to deal 2 to me. They try to Fervor, then we have combat, and then if they have another Fervor, then they just win. We couldn't have stopped it if we wanted to. So, moment of truth.
This will be quick.
Okay, sweating. I am sweating. What a sweaty finish, but we love this alternate victory, and we're gonna go play another game. Wow, it looks like I'm running into another somewhat aggressive list, and I'm just a bit shocked because it's been so long since I've run into them. I don't know if it's because folks are trying to grind fast games
These woods protect
right now on
their
the
own.
ladder, but
To serve the greater good.
it's just not what I was expecting. So we'll see if we can hold up again here with
I'll show
the
you
old Fiora Shen. I think we just let this through. Develop our Egghead.
Ask me about dragons, I just may have an answer.
All right. I just feel like we'd like to get a little bit more value out of this, as greedy as that is. This might even just be bank spell mana,
Break the ties that bind.
and then we can go into, I don't know, some sort of combo play here the next turn. Riposte on this to block Riven is attractive.
Cost of war.
What is this?
Nature blesses her.
So you can go with something like this, for example. Love to have developed this
Nature blesses her
this
foes.
round, but getting rid of the Riven here I think is a much bigger deal. Try to pass to bank our spell mana, and then we can maybe do this next turn to chew up a spider, or we could go with Shen to really start cranking this thing up, but this is going to chew up our Shen, so we shall see. So the backup Shen now makes that slightly more attractive. Okay, interesting dilemma of sorts. I would be much more inclined to play the Laurent if we could also back it up with a concerted strike here. But we simply cannot.
The eye of twilight.
And so I think it's going to be Shen, and then we can use the single combat, hopefully anyway, to protect the Shen.
I find them unworthy.
Kato here is problematic. That might have to eat a concerted strike this next round, but we're gonna go this route,
Nature blesses
and
her
then
foes.
whatever tries to eat this. Wow, they're not even going. All right, well, we're gonna do this on Kato then, because Kato is much more problematic. That was not the way that I expected blocking to go. Like, I get trying to chump block this. This was kind of expected, but you had a relatively free value trade. Now, yeah, I have combat tricks, but relatively free combat. I don't know. This is a great pickup because now we can actually block the overwhelm on this if we need to. So while we don't have Fiora, we're just kind of showcasing quality mid-range. We could use Stand United here to then try to block with this. Now, if they have a ping of any sorts, then they still end up winning that trade. The other option is you could go Sharp Sight on Shen, which then leaves us with mana left over for Concerted Strike if we really need it. So that's the safer path, and so that's what we're gonna do.
Immediately.
And we get a surrender. So a fast game, the second one, but hopefully this will, you know, let you know what you're working with on both ends of the spectrum. I know that Fiora Shen is a very popular tournament list because it's polarizing, and so if you are looking for things to play, whether it's again in the last chance gauntlet or if you are already qualified, then you're probably somebody who follows the tournament scene, or at least the ladder, and you're used to running into it. But again, this week I just wanted to play some lists that I know are going to be played in the event so that folks can become familiar with them. So whether you're somebody who isn't going to participate and you just want to watch the coverage, you'll kind of have an understanding of what to expect. And if you are somebody who is maybe wanting to qualify in that last chance gauntlet, the lists I'm going to play this week are mostly things you should expect to run into or should consider running yourself. So again, nothing groundbreaking here. This is a historic list. Fiora Shen's been around since the start of the game, but it is a very popular meta choice right now. And that's it for this video. Look forward to more tournament style decks for the next few days, and thanks for watching.